We're doing a series of lessons we're calling Sowing the Seed. Sowing the Seed. In this lesson, I want to share with you some thoughts on the royal gift. The royal gift. And I'm going to take a scripture text from the book of 1 Chronicles, the 29th chapter, verses 1 through 5. But first, let me tell you a short story. Her name was Gladys Home. Gladys Home. She died age 86. She had worked as a secretary. She never married and never made more than $15,000 in a year. And yet, when she died, she left a substantial gift to the Children's Hospital in Chicago. She had been known as the teddy bear lady because she would come in each year with teddy bears to give to the children at Christmas time. Nobody ever guessed. She would say, I'm going to someday give a significant gift, and nobody ever guessed. She was talking about $18 million. Nobody, even her family, everyone was shocked that knew her. In fact, they discovered that the teddy bears had simply been a ruse, a way to get into the hospital and check on families that were struggling financially, and then she would quietly, through her attorney, pay their bills. That was a royal gift, a royal gift. So that's what I'm talking about. Something that is very special. There's many, many different kinds of gifts in the world, but the Apostle Peter talks about believers, and he calls believers a royal priesthood. A royal priesthood. You'll find that in 1 Peter 2 and 9. You find also the Apostle James talks about the royal law, which is love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus himself describes us as believers as being kings and priests unto his God and Father. Revelation 1 and 6. And so this is something we need to understand. We are a royal priesthood. As people of God, we should believe God to enable us to give a royal gift. Now, when I found this story, I began praying, oh God, I want to do something like that. I want to be able to give you a royal gift. Now, let me give you an example in the life of Christ. First of all, at the birth of Christ. When Christ was born, it talks about the three magi. We call them the three. We don't know for sure. We know it was plural. There was more than one. But it said when they had opened their treasures, they presented to him, to Christ, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. That's Matthew 2 and 11. Now, what that is referring to was the gift, and that's why we call them kings, is because they brought a royal gift that was worth a lot of money. And then it was that God sent the angel to Joseph, and he said to him in a dream, arise and take the young child and his mother and flee to Egypt and stay there until I bring you word. Matthew 2 and 13. Now, that gift that had been brought by the Magi is what not only paid their expenses to go to Egypt, but paid for their living while they were there. That is a royal gift. Another example of a royal gift is at the burial of Christ, at his death. Christ's death was something that was totally unexpected by the disciples. They were not prepared for it, even though Jesus had tried to coach them and help them to be prepared. They were not ready for this. And so when he died, they were totally shocked. In fact, the evening before he died, there's an interesting story. It talks about a woman by the name of Mary. She took a pound of very costly oil, a spikenard, anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. That's in John 12 and 3. Now, that's a royal gift. When that happened, in Mark 4 and 14 and 4, it says, there were some of the disciples that were indignant among themselves, and they said, why was this fragrant oil wasted, poured on his feet. And of course, Jesus, he rebuked them for that. Leave her alone. She's done what she could. The reason they were so upset was that spikenard that she poured on his feet was worth 1 year's wages. Now, I don't care what your culture is, what your salaries are. 1 year's wages is 1 year's wages. That is a royal gift. Jesus said, leave her alone. She has done what she could. She's come to anoint my body for burial. Mark 14:8. Now, this is a royal gift. It was an expensive perfume that probably was her dowry money for her wedding. This is why it shocked the disciples so much, and even the apostles complained. There is an example, and you note if you study the story that Judas happened to be leading the complaints in that argument. I think that ought to give us some idea. But my point is, this was a royal gift. A royal gift. Not only at his birth, but also at his death. Now, I want to spend most of my time talking about this third point. The third point I want to talk about is building the temple. And I want to go back to our scripture reference that I referenced in the life of David. King David wanted to build God a temple. That was his dream. He wanted to build a house for God, a house that was worthy for God. God said no. Did God ever tell you no? Probably if you prayed more than twice, he has. I know he certainly has me. There's been a lot of times God would either say no or not now. And I just had to put the brakes on and just wait. And I know none of you have problems with impatience, but I've had to pray for that a lot. God said, no, you are not to build it. Your son will build it instead. Now, I find that very interesting. And he said, the reason is you are a warrior. You are not a builder. I find some people cannot be both. But what David does not get upset. That's been my problem. When God tells me no, I get aggravated. I start trying to change his mind. David didn't do that. What he did, David stepped back into his proper role, and he begins preparing for the next 25 years a royal gift to build God a house. Boy, that shows his heart. His offering is estimated over $100 million. Now that's a royal gift. A royal gift. Over $100 million. Back in the 1970s, someone calculated it, and it was $100 million then. Only, I don't know the percentage rate, but it would be much higher than that now. Over $100 million. That is a royal gift. And what David does, King David gives us some principles on royal giving. How to give a royal gift. I want to go through these with you. The first thing he says is, and this is in 1 Chronicles, the 29th chapter and verse 2. He said, I have prepared. There's the first key. I have prepared. In other words, royal gifts are never given carelessly. They take a lot of preparation. There's not something that you just do on the spur of the moment. David is a king, but he took 25 years to provide for this royal gift. I think just as a story I shared about the lady that gave $18 million to the Children's Hospital. She had spent most of her life just buying stock, never selling it, just letting it keep growing, accruing in value, until when she died, her estate was worth over $18 million and never made over $15,000 in 1 year. Wow, that is amazing, absolutely amazing. How did she do it? She prepared. her whole life to do this. When she was a young woman, just starting out as a secretary, one of her friends had a baby girl that almost died. That particular children's hospital performed the first heart surgery on what they called back then blue babies and saved the little girl's life. And it so impacted her, she wanted to do something for that children's hospital to help children that were hurting like this. So it takes preparation. That's what David has done. For 25 years, he's been preparing. Now, if we're going to give a royal gift, we're not going to do it accidentally. You're not going to just get up one morning and suddenly, I'm going to do it. No. You're going to have to prepare. You may spend your life preparing. But when it was over, David gave a gift that built a temple. But notice the second thing. Part B of this statement, he says, I have prepared with all my might. Now we're talking about a royal gift here. A royal gift. If we're going to give a royal gift, it's got to be something we are focused on. We can't, be divided in our attention here. We have to be focused. It's like the Apostle Paul when he said, this one thing I do. This one thing. That you could say about David. David was focused. This was his dream. This is his desire. See, royal gifts require great passion. And the older you get, the harder it is to have passion. When you're young, it's easier to have passion because you've got so much energy, you're wasting a lot of it. But the older you get, the more energy it takes to keep the passion. How do you keep the fire burning? Focus. See, the sun gives off millions of watts of energy every second. But unless you stay out in it a long time, you will not even sunburn. But with laser light, you can take 4 watts of energy, focus it, and cut through steel. It's the focus. He said, I have prepared with all my might. Now, as I said, if you don't focus, then you become distracted. You lose your passion, you lose the focus, you lose the dream. David had lived for this moment. This is what he had lived for. This was his life's dream, his greatest dream. I want to build God a house. And of course, he's the king, so he's going to do it the best of his ability. It's going to be a royal gift, but he has to focus to be able to do that. We have to do the same. It's the problem for too many people. We have this expression I remember as a boy growing up in Arkansas, I heard this expression over and over and over again. I have a half a mind to do this. I have a half a mind and then that's the reason they never did it, because they had a half a mind. It's only when we have focused our energy into one thing we do. And that's what David did. David said, I can't die yet. I've got to build God a house. Now, next point that I see, David says, I have set my affection. I have set my affection. That's a powerful statement. Set means, again, there's the word focus. It means someone that is determined, that they put all their energies into this. I have set my affection. In other words, royal gifts are motivated by love. I sometimes wonder how different the story of David and Solomon would have turned out if Solomon, rather than asking for wisdom, had asked for love. See, that was a characteristic of David. David made some terrible mistakes in his life, but he was always able to recover. Why? Because God said, I found a man after my own heart. It was his love for God, his passion for God, that brought him back to the altar, that brought him back into fellowship with God again and again. And that's what he's saying here concerning the royal gift. This royal gift is, I have set my affection. See, without passion, you're never going to do your best. Never. That's the reason we should find something we love doing and put our energies into that. If we'll find what we love to do, then we will have the passion behind it. Now, this is what David is saying about the royal gift. I have set my affection upon it. And because I've set my affection upon it, David's love for God is what caused him to give such a lavish gift. Now, when you do this, there's going to be some people that don't have passion, and some people don't. You know, their wood is wet. They let the fire go out, and they don't have passion, so they will look at a person with passion and, I don't understand you. How can you do that? And it's like when Mary comes in and anoints the feet of Jesus. She had something the disciples did not have, and so they called her gift a waste. Was it a waste? Absolutely not, and it's why Jesus rebuked them. Leave her alone. She's done what she could because she'd come to anoint my body for burial before I even died. She was able to, in her spirit, she knew she had to do this. It was a royal gift. So when we're talking about royal gifts here, it's what some people will consider to be crazy. They will think something is wrong with you. Why would you do such a thing? Now here's point D. The fourth thing that I see that David does here, he says, I have given over and above. Those are the words that he used to describe his gift. And of course, he's the king. So kings are going to give lavishly. Kings are going to give, and he's giving to the one that he loves more than anyone else. I have given over and above. That's what we're talking about with a royal gift. Royal gifts are extravagant giving. It is giving beyond the ordinary. It's giving with superabundance, giving with all your might. What he's doing here is what we would call an extraordinary gift. Probably nobody had ever seen a gift like that, nor would they ever see a gift like that the rest of their life. A royal gift is giving something that we treasure to someone that we treasure even more. I said it many times, but this is the passion. This is what keeps me going. This is the fire in my spirit. I only regret that I have but one life to give to Christ. I wish I had 1,000. I would give them all to him. I could never repay him for what he has done for me. And I just can't get over that. And so that's what we're talking about in a royal gift. A royal gift is taking something that is special, something you treasure, and giving it to someone you treasure even more. Now, the truth is, ordinarily, gifts like this would be considered unwise. But the truth is, this is not an ordinary gift. This is a royal gift. This is giving something that's very special. Boy, I have prayed so many times that God would help me to be able to give a royal gift. And I believe he is. In my case, I'm not a king. My case, I never had that much money because I'm always giving it away. I can remember my daughter Laura saying to me one day, Daddy, if you would just keep all the money that you get from, books and tapes and CDs and DVDs, and you could be a wealthy man. And I remember telling her, I count wealth differently than a lot of people do. The way I count wealth is how many people can I influence with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's my wealth, because when I stand before God, I want there to be a welcoming committee to be there to welcome me into my eternal home. This is a royal gift we're talking about. Now, let me discuss one fourth point here. This fourth point is what I'm going to call brimming hands, hands that are running over. And I take this from this same passage of Scripture where David is talking to his men that are around him, and he's challenging them with his example. And he said, this is the way I have given. I have prepared. I've given with all my might. I've set my affection. And this is the way I have given. Now, what are you going to do? See, this kind of giving is a royal attitude. A royal attitude. And David challenges his men with these words. Who then is willing to consecrate himself this day to the Lord? He's challenging all his mighty men, all his generals, and all the ones that served in his court. And he's saying, I set an example. Who is willing to consecrate himself this day to the Lord? I find it interesting when I went back and researched the word consecrate. In the Hebrew language, the word consecrate simply meant to fill your hand. To fill your hand. Not just a little bit, but a handful. That's what he is challenging them. And if you go on and read the story, his men rose to the challenge. And it was because of the giving of King David and all his mighty men, all his men of war, all these heroes of Israel, the giving that was given, that's what paid for the construction of the temple. That's why Solomon was able to build such a magnificent temple, a temple that outlived both David and Solomon for 450 years. It continued to influence people's lives. It was a royal gift. So he said, who's willing to fill your hand? Consecrate yourself to the Lord this day. David's men rose to the challenge, and they gave the money to do it. Now, what I challenge you is begin to pray along these lines. If we are a royal priesthood, and that's what the Bible calls us, Jesus said that. He's made us kings and priests unto our God. If we have a royal law, love your neighbor as yourself, if we are a part of this royal priesthood, then we ought to be praying, God, help me to give a royal gift. And I believe that God is answering my prayers. I believe that when I stand before him, I'm going to hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant. Now, my gift's not over yet. I'm still giving. And I'm trying to figure out ways. How can I give more? How can I continue giving? I want to give to the end of my life. People ask me all the time, how long do you intend to travel? As long as I can be effective, as long as I can influence people for Christ, as long as I can make a difference, that's how long. See, for me, this is a call of God. There's no place to retire. There's no such thing, because it's a call of God upon my life. But what I'm living for is the royal gift. And what I challenge you is this same thing. Let's give a gift that's fit for a king. Let's do something that will make a difference. We may be nothing more than just a secretary making a few $1,000s a year. We may just, but God will help us if we will pray. God will give us the ability. God will give us the ideas so that we can present a royal gift. One of the scriptures that has motivated me for years is in the Old Testament, 3 times a year, they would come before the tabernacle and before the temple to worship God. The Feast of Pentecost, the Feast of Passover, the Feast of Tabernacles. They would come together. And one requirement that God made, he not only asked them to come, but he said, let no man come empty-handed. Boy, That's one of the things that motivated me in early ministry to get involved in international travel. Was I wasn't winning that many people for Christ, and I've got to find a way, some way, to influence people for God, to influence people. I don't want to stand before the throne of God alone. And he motivated me. Let no man come empty-handed. And so David challenged them. Who then is willing to consecrate himself, to fill his hand for his God? Thank God they followed his example. That's the best kind of leadership. Lead by example. And because he did that, they rose up to the challenge, donated the money that Solomon was able to build the temple. I pray that this challenges you, and that you too will begin to pray, God, help me, show me some way I can give a royal gift. I want my life to make a difference. And I believe that God will answer those prayers. I do not believe anybody's life is an accident. It's a gift from God. And I believe that God will help us to stand before him with brimming hands. Stand before him with hands full of what we have been able to produce with our life to offer his kingdom. I pray that this challenges you in your spiritual walk, and that you begin to pray and seek God and ask him to help you to be able to bring a royal gift. Give a gift which is fit for a king. May God bless you in your Christian journey.